Alright, how to request for a Zerg specific build. Gonna show you my Zerg base. I'm not sure if I'm gonna take this through the full game or not, but here's what I do. I destroy my hatchery that starts in the middle by using this button on the drone, and then I build 3 down here, and I put a spawning pool right above it, and then I start my roaches. I usually get 3 columns of roaches, including that first column, so it's more like 2.5. They don't stay roaches, either turning them into ravagers or slow roaches, depending on what you're facing. If you're not familiar with a slow roach, it's a unit specific to Desert Strike, as far as I know, and they do... Sorry, all I did there was upgrade my hatchery into a layer so I could unlock my tech tree. And I'm going to go ahead and put out an observer. I've already spawned. If you're not familiar with how that works, just this indicator right here lights up when it's that person's turn to spawn next. And then when this timer reaches 0, they spawn. So we actually just took Silo already, which is great. You can see that gave us 1,000 minerals. And I'm looking at what my opponent is building now to decide what to do. So I went for a bunch of roaches, which only attack ground. The opponent is already going for air, so I need to adjust. I will go ahead and get a Slugalisk, an Infester. I'll actually go ahead and get 3 Infestors. They're very useful, 3 Slugalisks. And then I'll get a couple of Hydras. What I really want is Brutalisk, though. Brutalisk is going to do best against air. So I need the Infestation Pit before I can upgrade my layer into a giant spawning pool or a hive. They're the same thing tech tree-wise. The difference is these are slowlings or regular speedlings, and these are fastlings that move in front of the wave. I'm going to go with slowlings for right now. There are tactics for why you'd want to do each one, but for right now, that's going to make the most sense for what I'm doing. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill in with some Hydras. So I normally get 3 rows or about 10 buildings each, because I add just a little bit down here. So about 10 buildings each of Hydras, and I get 10 of each kind. So 10 Hunter Killer buildings, 10 Lurker dens, and 10 Rageless dens. Now let's check out the battlefield, because I just spawned. Looks like there was some leftover stack. That's why there are mines out here that I'm having to face before I even get to my wave. And they took a significant chunk out of my army. That's one of the best parts about Desert Strike, is that if your team is doing well, then you stack up units, and the next person who spawns has to face those leftovers. So it's a really great mechanic. It can be a pain in the butt when you're on the wrong side of it, but it is very, very fun. And it looks like I kind of won my wave because I have ground units left over here, but I also lost to this air. So what I'm going to do is focus on my Hunter Killers first. Hunter Killers have a special bonus in this version. Oops, almost misplaced a building. A special bonus in this version that makes them take reduced damage from air. 20% reduced damage from air. You can see it on the tooltip if you read it quickly. I want to point at it so you can see it, but that doesn't really help. Anyway, I'm just upgrading into Hunter Killer buildings, and I'm going to get some more Brutalisks as well. That's really going to help me with the air, which is what I want to take out right now, because that is their biggest threat. You try to watch the battlefield as much as you can, but it's difficult when you're trying to build all the time. So it's kind of back and forth. And then try to spend all your minerals down to 0 every time you're about to spawn, so that you aren't sitting on anything, and that makes your army as strong as it can be, your force as strong as it can be, which helps your team out the most that it can. Okay, so now he's got some Adepts out there. My Hunter Killer is going to do great against those. They have a bonus versus Armored, versus Rageless. These guys have a bonus versus Light, and they also attack faster. Now, what I'm going to get now is some Lurkers. Lurkers are ridiculously powerful in this version of the game, so you definitely want to have some in your Zerg army. Just don't go for too many, because they're not as effective in sudden death as they are building up to it. About 10 is where I stop. You can get all the way up to 16 and it still can work. It's a bit too much for me and my army. So I'm going to go ahead and get these into Ragelisks and get these into Lurkers. Right here. If my layout looks strange to you, it's because, for one thing, I want to keep my buildings connected. That does absolutely nothing for gameplay, but it makes me happy. And for another, I'm leaving space to expand on this. I know I'm probably going to wind up with 5 infestors and 5 sluggolists. As the army gets bigger, you want more slugs. Slugs function a certain way in this game, so I'll explain them here real quick, and I still need to explain slowlings as well, or slow roaches as well. So fast roaches go in front of your army, even if you have a sluggolist. On the other hand, slow roaches go behind the front force. So right now I have regular roaches, they're going out in front. You can see they're taking the brunt of this attack out here, and then my regular melee units get in front of them. That's kind of the way you want it. That protects your melee a little bit, gives them a chance to get into range before they start taking damage. But slow roaches are actually very, very strong in comparison. They attack up to 3 targets at the same time, and they slow down whatever they hit. So they're very, very powerful. But the downside is they're no longer in front, and they're not going to be defending your melee units any longer. So it kind of depends on the build. Sometimes you want one, sometimes you want both. It just really changes situationally. What you just saw was my lurkers getting owned by the mines that are still out here. Because even though we have detection on the board, detection was not in range, so lurkers could not see them, thus they could not attack them, and thus the mines went off and ate my lurkers. Happens sometimes, very annoying, but that's part of the game. One fix for that is to add a second observer. Every unit has some kind of detection, and for Zerg it's going to be an observer. So I have one here and I have one here. If I click this button, it'll make it fast, so it will actually go out in front of my other units now, which is awesome, because that is what I need right now. I'm also going to get some air, so I'm building corruptors right now. I'll show you where they're at in just a moment, and I'm going to get some lurkers upgraded. So that's going to give me 8, 9, 10, and that will give me 10 Ragelists as well. So I have 10 Hunter Killers, 10 Ragelists, 10 Lurkers. I'm going to go ahead and grab the Infestors, get my last Sluggolisk. The reason we get slugs in this game is because they put down creep, and that creep makes your army move faster. So one of the unique mechanics to Desert Strike is that your Zerg, if they have Sluggolisks, move faster than the other waves, which allows you to reinforce more quickly. So if the guy who's spawning right behind me, right before me, has units left on the board, I'll get there and reinforce them, we'll stack up, and then that stack will become very, very powerful and eventually allows us to push to the enemy base and hopefully beat them. Stacking is the main way you win in Desert Strike. If you don't win by wave 41, then you go to sudden death, where all 3 armies spawn at the same time and they fight each other here in the middle, and the winner of that destroys the enemy's base. You can go to sudden death, a lot of games do, but if you can avoid it, you always want to, because you have a lot less control over the outcome at that point. It is kind of a crapshoot if you win sudden death or not. There's certainly a lot of strategy that goes into it and everything, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, you can guarantee a win by taking out the enemy's fortress before sudden death, versus if you go to sudden death, there's always a chance you're not going to make it. So right now it looks like my teammate has built a strange build. He doesn't really have enough units to back up all the High Templar he's built, which is probably why he's leaking so much, and now I'm having to face basically half to a full Terran wave before I get to the Protoss wave I'm supposed to be facing. I told you I'd show you what corruptors are. They're right here. Advanced. So you have basic mutations, which is just these 4 buildings you can build in your base, and the hatchery that doesn't do anything unless you upgrade it to spawn Zerglings and to get your tech unlocked. And then you have these 2 defensive structures that you can build on the battlefield. If you do, what you want to do is build them around the cannons, and you want to build them in such a way, you kind of want to build one down here, one right here, up here. You wrap the cannons in such a way that the enemy's melee units can't get to them, and that protects your cannons a little bit better. As long as you have one of these cannons surviving, your main base is invulnerable. Once these cannons go down, the health bar becomes active on the main base, and you can lose it. Silo is a different mechanic. Silo is kind of fun. So Silo is this building right here. It has 9,000 combined health between shields and life, and if it gets destroyed, it releases a big fluffy monster that attacks the enemy team and helps you out. If he survives, then he patrols back and forth between his spawn location and the main base, and will continue to help you out. At some point, he will pop, meaning the enemy team will defeat him. When that happens, he explodes for a pretty big AoE. So he's a really good balance feature in the game. It helps a lot to maintain your early base, because it's very effective. But you can see these pink ones are the Slugalists right here, and they are producing all of the creep, which is allowing my whole army to move faster. Now, a lot of buildings in Desert Strike have upgrades available, and you can change back and forth between some of them. Some of them you have to spend minerals on, and those you can't change back from. So if I go and swap my Slugalisks over to Slow Slugs, which is an option, they go from being light to being armored. And on death, instead of summoning Pigalisks, which are little baby Ultralisks, they summon Banelings instead. It's sometimes a good idea to use them as tanks, because they can be very effective. They're also great at specific tasks, like Banelings have a bonus versus light, so you could get them in order to take out like a Terran or a Zerg's light units. And I'll show you how to do it. You just click this button right here on it's called the Nidus Network, but it's the building that spawns Slugalisks. You click this, and it shows that little green effect. That means it's now spawning a slow Slugalisk. It no longer lays creep, but it will do the other things I described. And it's also a little bit tougher to hurt. Now, what I want to go for next is, these are mainly for distraction. So I'm going to put out 7 Mutalisks, and I upgraded one into a Broodlord. You have to get at least one Broodlord before you can get Swarm Guardians. Swarm Guardians are a fantastic siege unit. I'll show you if I got it out in time. Yeah, there it is. It looks like a big snake in the air. Swarm Guardian damages 35, and in a splash of 1.685, which is huge. And it does 60 versus light. So they're going to do significant damage no matter what they hit, but if they happen to hit light, they're going to do way, way more. Very effective unit. Definitely want to have them in your army. I recommend 12 to 18 for most Zerg builds. They are your primary siege unit, which is what this game is about. Stacking siege is how you usually push an enemy base and beat them. That's Fluffy, by the way. It says Silo Monster, but everyone in the community calls him Fluffy. That is his real name. No one cares about the other one. And he, as you can see, helped defeat the enemy wave, and he starts patrolling, just like I said, from the base to a spawn point. If there are units close enough in his range, he can come out into the middle field, but he's not really supposed to. So it doesn't happen very often. It's just kind of a thing that occurs sometimes. You can't really plan around it or anything. Again, I'm building strangely here because I have multiple purposes. I plan on getting 5 Broodlords, so I'm going to go ahead and make the Mutalisks for them now. I plan on getting 2 Devourers, so I'm going to go ahead and make the Mutalisks for them now. Now what I want to do is add in some extra Corruptors, because I'm still getting my butt kicked in the air. And then I'm going to go ahead and get some more Swarm Guardians. One thing I have not gotten yet is Queens. Queens are a huge part of a Zerg army once you have any kind of unit with a lot of health pool. They're right here. Creep Tumor spawns 1 Queen, and they should do a good job of healing whatever is close to them. If you have Ultralisks or Aberrations, they'll heal those. They'll heal Corruptors, they'll heal Vipers, they'll heal Swarm Guardians, all of those things. So very, very useful units. You usually want to have at least 8 in your army, sometimes 12 or 16. Now, while I have a second, let me show you the hero mutations. So your third menu down here, you have Basic, which we went over. You have Advanced, which has all of these units you can look at in your own time. And then you have Heroic Mutation. This tells you all the heroes available and how to get them. So these 2, Zergar or the Leviathan, you can just build the buildings directly from here. Kerrigan, you have to get Creep Tumor. So you'd go to the building that spawns Queens, right? Right now it's spawning a Queen. If you click this, it will instead spawn a Kerrigan. But it's you can only have 1 hero per player, and each team can only have 1 of that hero. So if you have 3 Zerg, you can get 1 Kerrigan, 1 Zergar, 1 Leviathan, but you cannot get 3 Leviathan, 3 Kerrigan, or 3 Zergar. Not an option. So I'm trying to stay up on my builds here to make sure I'm producing units as quickly as I can. I really don't want to spawn with minerals left over. It's not good for the team. It's not good for the push. Every mineral counts. You really want to get that counter close to 0 without building ridiculous stuff just to accomplish that. So let's see how this wave goes. We had some stack there, but I also had some help from Fluffy. So it's not quite an even wave, but it might be close to it. I am going to go ahead and build some defenses real quick because we are getting pushed pretty hard, and I don't want us to lose our base defenses completely. I also want to show you how to build them correctly. So what you want to do is you can start right here in this little nook between the cannons, and then if you leave it like this, the melee will get in right here and start attacking the cannon. So you want to go ahead and wrap it and then add that extra layer like I just did. Same thing over here, just adding an extra unit. And then I'm going to go over here, build this one, and that leaves these last 2 spots right here to really protect the cannons. And then melee should not be able to reach any of the cannons from that point. So we should be in good shape now. But you really just want to get a protective circle around your cannons, and that is the idea of building defenses. Now I am still losing air, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and get even more Brutalisks, and I'm going to go ahead and upgrade these ones, which is a toggle on Brutalisks that you can switch between. So I just press this button. Some buildings, if you have them all selected, will all toggle at once. Some are 1 by 1 even when all selected. It's kind of a strange thing, but it's just the way it goes. Real quick, what you just saw was my Mutalisk running in and getting completely destroyed. That is their whole purpose. What they did was eat some of the mines and some of the snipes from this Terran wave so that my Corruptors didn't get hit with it. That's actually very, very useful because Mutalisks are only about 450 for 2. So they're kind of cheap fodder. You can get some of them, but there is a special thing here. If you look at the very bottom of the tooltip, it says max 48. The developer means that. He really, really means that. If you try and build Mutalisk 49, it destroys every Mutalisk building that you have. That's because Mutalisks don't really do a whole lot in combat unless they're used like I am, kind of as distractors, or I hate to say it, but fodder. But what they do is hurt your CPU. So at some point, people were kind of cheesing it, and it was causing other people to quit the game. It was very, very frustrating, and so the developer was like, screw it, I'm going to add this in, and that is what he did. He made it so that if you make Mutalisks beyond his maximum limit, they simply explode all of your Mutalisk buildings. He could have just put a cap on it. I think that would have been the better or simpler choice, but I think he might have been a little bit frustrated there. I'm not really sure. I will just say he did it that way. It works. People stop using Mutalisks in that way, and that's pretty cool. I'm checking my base right now to see if there's anything I need to do. Anything I haven't built yet, but this is also kind of just an overview of what my base looks like typically. Now, what I build changes round by round. I've built more Brutalisks this game than I normally would, and I've built my Vipers and Corruptors. These are the Vipers, these are the Corruptors, way earlier than I normally would. But that's because the game calls for it. It's just, in this particular match, I need them. It's my best shot of helping the team and keeping everything alive. So you kind of have to play it by ear. Most of the time, what you're doing is more changing your build order rather than changing what you're building. But in this case, I'm actually having to change what I build to counter this Protoss. And I think I can do that now, but I'm not getting 1v1s or even spawns in order to find out. So I don't really know for sure, which is one of the difficult parts of the game. You don't always know what your build can or can't do. Now, what I'm going to do, because I want to check the whole composition for the team, is I'm just going to look at the other team bases. I'm going to see this guy has a lot of Fate Initiates. That's great. Lots of ground to air. Very helpful. And he has no Tempest yet. He might get some soon, hopefully. This is the other Protoss. He also has Fate Initiates. Also... hang on. No, he's got Scouts, no Tempest yet. Okay, I'm going to get some more Vipers. We really, really need more anti-air right now. Vipers are a good anti-air unit. They can be used for 2 different purposes. The first is they attack pretty damn fast, and so they do significant damage. But the other is they yoink units. This ability right here is called Abduct. It grabs a unit with high health that it can see, and it pulls it to itself. In sudden death especially, that's extremely valuable because it's going to take some of their siege units out of play. It's going to grab them, pull them to your side like it just did with those Colossus right there. And that Colossus just get immediately attacked by everything around it, which is going to usually get rid of it pretty freaking quick. So what I'm seeing here is I'm winning air to ground, right? And I'm taking out his ground, but I'm still losing air to air. I could get more Brutalists, but I already have 16. Just not a good expenditure there. I already have a significant number of Corruptors, and I could get more, but what I want to do is look at, because it's wave 40, we're about to be in sudden death, what I really want to look at is what does the team need for sudden death. So I'm looking over here at this guy. He's got Void Prisms. Those are anti-air. They're just not as powerful as Tempest. He's got Wrathwalkers. Those are pretty useful units. They do 200 damage, which is huge. And then I've got this other guy with a whole lot of ground. We're actually pretty short on ground. And we don't have a whole lot of air either. I'm not exactly sure what our team's been building, but I've been too focused on other stuff. So what I'm going to do is try to get some Corruptors out. So I'll build 7 Corruptors. This is the last spawn timer, by the way. Spawn 40 was the last spawn. We have 7 seconds left before all units get boomed. And you get a few seconds to finish your build. And that is it. After that, it goes to sudden death. And you just kind of get what you get. So I'm going to add... You kind of want to get your minerals down to 0 at sudden death. So I just added an extra roach over here. And that leaves me with 36 minerals. And that is a complete game of Desert Strike as Zerg. That's more or less how it goes. Typical build would have a little bit less Brutalists and maybe some Aberrations or Ultralists in the front line. I didn't get a chance to build those because my opponent went so heavy into air so quickly that in order to counter him, I had to keep up with that air demand. May not have been the best call. Maybe I should have ignored that a bit and gone for some more ground. Might have helped us push early game. Can't really say for sure. What I will say is looking at the numbers right now, we have 91 air versus they have 185. That's a significant difference, and it's not good. That means my teammates really didn't build a whole lot of air. Now, we are in the lead on ground, but that can only take you so far. Sometimes you can win, especially if they don't have a Zerg, by winning on ground. But if the enemy team has Zerg, you really need to counter their air, more or less, and potentially beat it. What you just saw, though, is those numbers change really rapidly, and that is because we have higher quality in our air, and we have a whole lot of storms. And Psi Storms do a lot of damage to clumped up units. It looks like they put a ton of minerals into Liberators, and those Liberators just got beaten by those storms, which is great for our team. Now we're ahead on air. We're still a little bit ahead on ground, but not as much as we were in the beginning. So we're going to have to see how this goes. And we're just back and forth kind of chatting as we play. The community is usually really nice. If you are kind to people, they're usually kind to you back. If you make requests of people instead of demanding it or yelling at them or telling them, they sometimes often listen. I won't say it's 100%, but it definitely works better than just telling someone. Apparently people don't like being told what to do in any game, and especially in Desert Strike. So it's usually a great idea to ask or, just say, hey, could you, rather than go build this. Looks like we're actually going to win this one. We're winning air, which I'm not going to say Vipers did all of it, but they did a whole lot. I have the majority of the air that's up, and the Wrathwalkers are also helping a lot. They target air and ground, and again, they're hitting for 200 damage, which is huge. It looks like some of their tanks are going to sneak by, and they're going to make it to our base. So we're going to have a little bit of a base race here, but it shouldn't be a problem. We have more than enough units left over to win that. But you can see our base is taking a few pace points of damage. And that was pretty much it. That's Desert Strike as Zerg. I hope you enjoyed.